I'm Christine Santos, ex-corporate woman turned founder of my own boutique podcast production company. And it wasn't that long ago that I lacked the knowledge, the time, and the community to focus on growing my small but fun and exciting business. Through it all, I've had many challenges and failures and lessons learned. Today, I have so much fun helping others change lives and having the time and choices that allows me to spend more time with my family. It wasn't too long ago that this was just a someday dream. I created the Wonder Boldly podcast to give you inspiration with actionable steps to help you go after your someday dream now. If you're ready to take your days, weeks, months, life back into your own hands, or you're just curious what it means to create a business that makes an impact in a life you love, you are in the right place. Let's go. Thank you so much, Monica and Cindy, for coming back to Wonder Boldly. It was about a little over a year ago that you were here on the show. And in 2025, I am on a mission to help promote small businesses per usual and people who are making a purposeful impact, whether that is health and wellness, sustainability, and you fit right into that with what you're doing. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to be back.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you started RAPT and the reason behind it.
So it started 6 or 7 years ago when I was Christmas shopping. I have 3 kids and a large extended family, and I was at one of the large box stores buying a lot of wrapping paper because I had to wrap everybody individually, different papers.
She's a little OCD.
A little
that
OCD,
way.
yes.
Everybody got a different wrapping. Yeah.
So I was at the cashier with this cart full of, just the paper, the ribbons, the tags. And it just struck me that this was going to be bags and bags of garbage at Christmas morning. And it was a little bit rude of me, but I said to the cashier, I go, this is such a waste. It's going to be bags and bags at Christmas morning. I said, do you guys sell reusable gift wrap? And she said, no, but that's a really good idea. And I literally got in my car and I was like, I bought the wrapping paper anyway because I had the cart and everything in there. But I bought the wrapping paper, but I was thinking this is just a waste. We should do something. We should be doing something different. And so I thought fabric is the logical thing. So the first person I called was my sister just to see, is this a crazy idea? Because sisters will always tell you if you're crazy. She thought it was a great idea. And then the next person I called was Cindy because she was a good friend. We'd known each other since our children were in kindergarten. And she had a children's clothing company at this time. Do you want to say a little bit about that right now?
Well, I had run a kids clothing line for 10 years. So I had worked in fabric and production and design and all that kind of stuff and had a history in design. So she called me and I was ready to shift from the kids line. And so I agreed. I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, and we thought it's got to be fabric. So Cindy had just beautiful eye for fabrics. She had all the resources. And so we just kind of started playing around. We went to fabric stores and bought fabric and cut them. And we couldn't figure out how to close it. How are you going to close it? You're not going to use tape.
Yeah.
As we began to look into this, we realized
we tried snaps and Velcro, and we tried extended pieces
of ribbon that you could tie around it. It looked really messy. It looked bulky. We bought what was out there online for wrap fabric
that
gift wrap,
existed, right?
And we thought it looked bulky, and
it also didn't work as well.
It didn't work as well
because it didn't. Once you put a snap or a Velcro on, it has to fit at a certain place. And if your box that you're wrapping it around or your gift doesn't connect in that space, then you're kind of done. It doesn't work.
What was interesting was that it was really just a shift in perspective because it's a square of fabric
once you took all that stuff off.
Yeah. And people said, oh, use a tea towel or a dish towel. And we're like, the rectangle doesn't work either. So we determined it was square is the best. But what we realized is once you turn a square on a diagonal, it becomes a diamond and you have the ends to tie it. So we didn't need to attach anything to tie it.
And to be fair, we're not exactly sure if we found Furoshiki first, which is the Japanese art of wrapping, which is a square. And it's generally a 20-inch square. And they've been doing this for centuries. or if we happened upon it also. Like I don't exactly know.
I feel like it was almost
But we did.
simultaneously. We're like, wait a minute, this exists already. This isn't a new idea.
Yeah.
It's been in Asia for centuries, especially Japan.
Yeah.
We say Furoshiki. I think it's pronounced Furoshiki in Japanese, but we just thought, well, this is a great idea. Why aren't America doing this in the United States? And so we started sort of focusing. We built a business, and that we were in some small stores, some bookstores, and some museum gift shops, and the pandemic hit. We had a website, but you really built the website.
So we shifted and brought somebody in to help us boost the SEO and drive traffic there and create kind of pay attention to Google ads. And so that shifted things too.
Yeah.
And so what year was it that you were officially selling?
2018. 2018 officially, I think. 2017, we got all the licenses. 2018, we started officially selling.
Yeah.
We had our first pop-up in Wellesley, Massachusetts. And
I think that's right.
Yeah. And so at the time, our product looked different. We hadn't quite figured out the packaging piece and we did.
Yeah.
The one thing we started doing,
we didn't have
years
accents.
later, we didn't have accents.
Yeah.
And we can show you that later if you like. But people are used to bows on top of
in the West.
In the West. And so we thought, well, let's make bows out of our scrap fabric. So that was another sustainability piece, frankly. It's like we know there's a lot of waste with fabric in the fashion industry. And we thought we're going to have these strips of fabric that are going to come off the bolt.
Well, in any industry that uses fabric, you can't use the extra because it just comes off. Because anything you're cutting generally doesn't go to the edges. So there's always going to be some kind of piece somewhere. And so there's all these pieces that are left. And there is conversation about how to use it, but our pieces happen to be strips. So we were able to take them and this is an example of a strip that I kind of played around with, and we figured out how to create what we're calling poofs. But they're basically, they can morph into something larger, or you can kind of shrink it into something smaller, and then you're going to put it on top of a gift, like here. So then it becomes kind of the Western version of a bow. And that it helps people. I think before that, I feel like it looked more crafty to people.
Maybe,
Just not in a bad way, but just not as polished as their regular old-fashioned wrapping paper with a bow on it. Because nobody did wrapping paper, not really, without bows on it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So this kind of answered that for this particular market.
And it helped us because we were able to use up the fabric. And Cindy would design it, and then we found a women's cooperative sewing group in New York, and they started making our accents. So it was just a great kind of...
And so do you use all of the fabric because of this additional, because of the accessory, if you will? So you're talking about when you cut it, you have the strip. Okay.
Yeah.
We
try. Not all of it. It's not 100%.
No, it's not 100% because...
But it's probably
90%. Let's just say it's a lot more than it would have been.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Exactly.
We don't really throw anything away. So we don't...
before it was going to landfill from the cutters, because the cutter, once they finish, they have contracts with people who pick it up and take it to landfill and stuff like that. Okay. So you've taken it out. We say, no, we'll take it back. And then we figure out how to move it forward. And we've set it up so that we don't really cut it after that, which makes it easier too. So they're strips, but the way that the length and everything, we just have the cooperative kind of stitch it. So
nice.
It's worked out nicely.
Let's talk about what you're learning from your customers. So to go back, it was 2018. And so
that's it for this episode. Thank you again so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Please share it with a friend and leave a 5-star review. It means way more than you know. Until next time, continue to wonder boldly.
That showed you how to do it. It's got instructions inside. And we'd wrap it with the bow. And this would be what we sold. Period. Straight up. And then over time, we morphed into a box that had those 3 sheets, and then we would give you the accents that would go with it.
You want to show her the box?
Well, this is the second level box, so we have a smaller box, but this one is our second level. So this has 7. So it's that stack here, a similar stack here, and then an extra large on the bottom, and then the accents to go with it. We've added a gift tag so that they easily can use something because it doesn't work it's harder to tuck in a regular card. And then this is our QR card. So there's an instruction and a QR code. So in case you give it to a friend and they have no idea how to use it, the QR code's there. They can, as you saw, they can go on and look at our YouTube videos and understand how to use it. And it answers a lot of questions like how you're going to wrap a wine bottle and stuff like that. So that's a big shift. So now it's only sold in boxes. It's not sold just separately as three pieces. You can buy them individually, but the majority of our sales are in the packaging.
In the box, yeah. And we try to coordinate all the fabrics so that it looks pretty if you have more than one gift. But obviously, not everybody gives 7 gifts at a time, but everything coordinates well. And our holiday set is...
Well, and this is an example of the next larger set, which is the 18.
Oh, okay.
There's 18 sheets in here, and it can be a different theme. This one happens to be plaid. We have some that are just navy and silver. We have some that are neutral. We have a holiday set, which seems to be quite a big seller.
Yeah.
So
what's the holiday set that's a big seller?
So the holiday set we put together, we call it holiday. We're thinking Christmas and Hanukkah, but there's nothing in it that says Christmas specifically, because we have reds and plaids. And so our idea is you can use this for the holiday, but you can also use all of this for Valentine's Day or a birthday or an anniversary or, whatever, a graduation gift. So use it throughout the year. There's no dreidels or Christmas trees or bunnies, Easter bunnies. So we're thinking we sell mostly at the holiday because most people buy gift wrap during the fourth quarter. And that's when most of our sales are. But we're kind of telling people buy it, but use it all year round. Don't just put it away like you put away your stocking. You can bring it out for Christmas, but then you can use it again, and you can use it for Hanukkah.
And having done the kids' clothing line, I learned, and we've been able to use that information, that people they might be drawn to some amazing print, but that's not what they're buying. What they're buying is the little black dress. So in the kids' clothing, it was the equivalent of that. They were buying the simple tops and jackets. They might be drawn to the amazing printed skirt, but they didn't purchase it, right? That's kind of the same thing that's happening here. Like, we have some florals that attract people, but they basically want the neutrals, because you can easily do a neutral and put a different color accent on top, and it has a pop and an energy.
So it's really interesting that we're drawn to, I love your floral. You have it on your website, one of your floral prints. I love that so much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that too.
I love that one. But all to say, that grabs people's attention, but the data is showing you that might bring them to your site, if you will, or start shopping around, and they end up putting in their cart the more neutral.
Yes.
Or buying a set that has one of them, but the rest are neutral. So they can, let's say your daughter had a birthday, you can use that for one, but then you'll use a silver for one. And then the silver would go to the boys' get present. You know what I mean? You can kind of morph it. Yeah.
And also, to your point, I think that one Cindy just showed you, I don't think people would use that for Christmas. Because people still have in their mind Christmas is green and red. And people, it's a little different. Like when you look at wrapping paper that you buy, there's blues and there's a lot of different.
They might use it for Hanukkah, though.
They might use it for Hanukkah. But it's just interesting. But that is shifting a little, too.
One thing that we're interested in having people think about it as is going forward, like a gift for a baby shower. Yeah. Baby's first gift wrap, right? Like, here's the set for Fred or Susie or whoever, right? Carson. And so you gift it, and then they don't have to, if you give them a family set of 18 sheets, they're going to get through most of their gifts. Might not cover everything, but you've got probably 5 years of stuff. So there's that. And there's also wedding gifts. Like, you're starting your house. Here's a set of sheets that you can
start a new tradition, when you get married, when you have a baby, start the kids off early on a sustainable path.
Yeah. We feel like that would be a good niche, but we haven't really hit it yet.
Yeah. We haven't
found it yet.
Well, partly because now when people have babies, there's a registry and they have certain things they want, and we need to get on the registry.
Yeah. Or somehow those websites, the Knot and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right.
There's baby ones and there are wedding ones. So
we just would it be, because I'm thinking, I don't know if it makes sense, but at, the weddings and the baby showers, those types of things, I think it's just those two, but it's probably more. where you get a favor when you, as a person going, maybe a favor being one of your smaller, like,
Sets.
and that's like helping to promote, so the gift.
Or the favor is wrapped.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
I mean, it
like
could
that.
you could go either direction.
Yeah.
No one's reached out about
We
that.
thought about that a while back when we thought we should reach out to party planners to do tablescapes and things. And we did a few photo shoots doing that ourselves. And we thought that would be a great idea to just, but we didn't really get much traction. It doesn't mean we can't keep trying.
Right now it's definitely something people are thinking about for Q4, the end of the year. Like people don't really have gift wrap in mind at the moment until you start to see the holidays showing in the horizon. But we're starting to realize that too. So we're happy to get the information out there. And
we do have birthdays, every day of the year, and there are holidays.
But at this point, I think what happens is every once in a while you grab something, but you kind of have so much gift wrap that you've acquired for the various things that happen around the holidays that's what you tend to use. That's what I tended to use the rest of the year. So anyway.
What does that look like for the two of you? Because you started this wrapped. So now when you gift anybody in your family, your friends, I'm assuming you're using wrapped. Like, do you no longer have gift wrapping paper, traditional paper?
Well, I have some because I haven't used it up.
Me neither. I still have a little bin, a big bin of it that we just.
Because now we do, well, every once in a while you don't.
Every once in a while, my husband will use wrapping paper because he's like, "Oh, this person won't use this again."
Well, we had a Yankee swap. We both went to, and Monica's like, "I'm going to fake them out and do regular paper so they won't know."
Right.
So I didn't happen to go that direction. So for me, I honestly am absolutely
almost always, except for the Yankee swap, I almost always use wrap because, partly because we have it, but also because I want other people to have it as well.
It's PR for us.
Yeah, and my sisters use it, and kind of just
It's marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, we get it out to more people and they see how pretty it is and easy it is.
Yeah.
The more they, tell two friends and so on and so on. And it is starting to shift. People are definitely have heard about it. They know a little bit more about it. When we go to pop-ups, which we haven't done as much lately because the website seems to be working better, but we definitely notice that it's in the ether now. In a way it was not in 18.
Yeah. Agreed.
At least in the US. Yeah.
And what do you think is attributed to that? Like, why do you think that is? What are the pain points for people that when they see you at a pop-up, they're like, oh yes, sustainability, the landfill, all of that.
But it's all happening at the same time, right? Everyone's like, all of a sudden this compost company showed up in our town that you could buy into for like $9 a year or something. But it didn't exist before that. Like that came maybe in 2020 or something.
And then there's bins everywhere.
And everyone's doing farm to table and, buying sustainable organic food. And that goes with, not using stuff with chemicals in it. This is all kind of together, right?
Yeah.
All those pieces are coming together at the same time. So all of a sudden you're starting to kind of see it. Even I think Hallmark has a
Hallmark is now doing it. It's basically a dish towel.
It is basically.
But the idea is it's reusable gift wrap, but they're marketing it so that you can do something else with it.
Well, and they did it.
And they did it.
Right? So it's starting to become something that people are familiar with.
And Hallmark's the reason we've been wrapping with wrap paper for hundreds of years. They started us with tissue. They morphed into, migrated to paper, to wrapping paper. But I think it's just, you asked about the pain points. A lot of it's just people haven't thought of it. And then it is more expensive than paper. So there's that. But it's not if you keep reusing. Like if you keep it in your house, you actually save money and you never have to go to buy.
Did we say it was like on the 5th use?
I think it was the 4th use.
What I said from the beginning was, we give it away because we own it. But generally, I wanted it to have in my house. And I wrap all my stuff and I, give it for Christmas. I'm Christmas. And then it comes back, it's folded back, put in a closet. And then somebody's birthday, it comes out. And then anniversary, it comes out. So you just keep reaching back.
And Cindy has 4 kids, I have 3 kids. So you have a lot of birthdays throughout the year.
And between anniversaries and everything.
Graduations.
You're reaching for it quite a bit. And so I don't, I can imagine some people don't give it away. They just want to keep it in house until they get a certain amount. But once you've used it that fourth or fifth time, you've made your money back.
And what's interesting is I moved my son. He moved from Manhattan to Brooklyn, and I was carrying box, and he goes, "That's my wrapped box." And he had a little box with a bunch of wrap that I'd given him. He keeps it, and he wraps it with his friends. And he's late 20s, so
it's another errand you don't have to do. It is actually faster.
It is faster
and easier. It morphs around many more shapes because you can imagine like the cloth is just going to like adhere to the shape, whereas the paper sometimes it gets torn, sometimes it doesn't fold correctly. Yeah. So this just morphs around the shape and you're done. And so it's a much easier thing. We've told this story before, but one Christmas, my birthday's 3 days before Christmas, and 2 of my kids went up to wrap something. And I said to them, "Look, there's the old stuff, and then there's wrapped, so you can do whatever you want." And they said, "Mom, we're just going to use the old stuff. We'll leave you the wrapped." And they came downstairs, and their gifts were all wrapped in wrapped fabric. And I was like, "What happened?" And they said, "It was too hard. It was just easier. It was so much easier to use the fabric than it was to use the paper. And so we just didn't." And that's exactly what we want people to understand.
It is really easy. And people who say, "Oh, I don't know how to wrap, I'm all thumbs," they figured it out. Yeah. It's so easy.
We've had 6-year-olds wrap in front of us and videotaped it, put it on. Yeah.
So I'm hearing 2 common threads there of it's saving time and it's easier, I guess 3, and feeling good about it, right? I know when I wrap, I still have some of the wrapped. I'm pointing because it's in my storage area, but thinking about like when I'm gifting to somebody and I go and I go through the wrapped, I feel good about it, right? You just do, instead of grabbing the paper and the tape and, I get on the floor. Like I don't have to get on the floor, or I could set up one of my tables, and I don't have to get on the floor for that flat surface. It has to be just so in the corners of the wrapping paper. So it is easier. And I think what really resonates with me though, I just feel good about it. You just feel good doing something good.
And we bumped into someone who grew up in Japan, and they were saying that in their world, what you do, because people always say, like, do you ask for it back?
That's a number one question.
And and she was saying that, like if I pick a fabric and I wrap it and give it to my friend for her birthday, my friend holds on to it and then uses that to wrap my gift when it's my birthday. So it becomes part of the relationship. So you can do it myriad ways. Like Monica asked for it back from her father-in-law because he was never going to use it.
Yeah.
And so there's that reality too, like understanding who you're talking to,
right,
like
who you're giving it to.
But it can work a bazillion ways. I mean, even our like little Yankee swap thing has been funny to watch because
that has been funny.
I was the first one that brought wrapped under the tree, and there are 12 or 15 of us depending on the year, but everything else was paper. And now that we're a few years out, at least 80%
at least
is the fabric, because we've given them something here or there and they've held on to it, and now they're wrapping it with it again. And so it's been kind of cool to watch.
It is,
because that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
What I just realized too is in my own story, the wrapping paper, the 2 categories, the holiday and everything else, is downstairs in the garage in bins. And my wrapped, which is in a lot, but I still have a couple of boxes of it, is in a special place. And it's like, because I think of it as special, right?
Cute.
But I bet if I put it in with the everyday, we'd be more likely to use it.
Oh, interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I put rags next to the paper towel. And so now when I go to reach for a paper towel, I often just grab the rags. And it's just a question of that you said earlier, the pain point, making it frictionless so that you don't even think twice. You just grab a rag instead of using paper. I mean, there's all these little things that we're just used to doing certain things a certain way, and it just takes a little shift. And putting it in your box you probably would use it more often.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So what have you seen with your customers? Do you have a lot of repeat customers, more new customers? How does that look?
This year, we had a lot of new customers at the holidays.
Well, once we bumped up the Google ad.
Once we bumped up the Google ads, we had a lot of new customers, and a lot of people used the discount. You know how when you go to a site, when it pops up, you get 15% off. And we didn't see that before using the discount, but that doesn't matter so much. But they bought it, and they bought larger sets.
This year, this year we sold a lot to our repeat people until we turn that on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Until you turned one on, I'm sorry.
These Google ads.
We did Google ads and we upped our spend right before the holiday, between Thanksgiving and
So
Christmas.
it got out.
And it worked.
It's definitely paid for itself.
But we also have a lot of repeat customers, people who also have bought a lot already, but also bought more. So I've asked some of them I know, some I don't know, and we're planning to reach out to them now that the holidays are sort of over and settled. And so we want to know, are you giving it away? Especially people who buy a lot of large sets. Are they giving any of it away, or is it all in-house? So we need to find out that information. But the people I know who have bought it are saying they're doing both. They're buying so much that they can give it away and keep it. And obviously it's more expensive and, but.
Yeah, our customer is definitely specific in the way that they like being aware of the environment is great, but they actually want it to look pretty. So if it doesn't look great, and that's one thing that we're able to to afford them is this wrapping that looks like, we like to say it's the, elegance of the old school wrapping with the environmental piece of the new school, right? Whereas some of the new paper, the fabric wrapping looks a little too motif or themey, or like I said, crafty, not in a bad way, just that kind of like homespun. Ours is we're going for a little more elegant level, but some people we know are so, I'm going to call it earthy crunchy in a positive way.
Yeah.
That they're not going to buy it. They're going to just use their dish towel.
Yes. Or make it themselves.
Yes. And like for us, or their cloth napkin. For us, I don't really want to do that because my napkin might have a tomato stain on it.
My dish towels definitely do.
Like I don't want to cross pollinate, but
that's a good word.
But some people do. So it is like it's a particular pocket.
That's very interesting. And so as the folks that listen to Wonder Boldly are entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs. And I think what you just identified is really, really interesting as we're looking to who our ideal clients, our ideal customers are. And so how would you say you've sort of been able to uncover that? So for example, I'm just going to reiterate how it landed with me. So here I'm thinking, gosh, I feel really good. It's sustainable. I'm going to sell it to that community that I can think now right off the top of my head. They're not going to buy. They're going to reuse whatever they have in the house. It could be a paper bag. It could be a dishcloth, right?
Yes.
And so that is so interesting. But the people who are interested in buying Wrapped are sort of looking for the aesthetics and the beauty of it. So how did you identify that?
Over time.
Just over time, it was kind of, throwing spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks, but also just starting to look at who our customer was.
So friends that are very much in that pocket. So we were able to have conversations with them. We've also shown up to some stores that are very much that way as for pop-ups, and it doesn't do as well as we predicted it might do. So it's kind of like the Martha Stewart of, you know what I mean? Like you're trying to show somebody something, but there is an emphasis on how it looks. You're trying to make it look beautiful. And some people aren't as focused on that,
And so I also think like the Martha Stewart of gift wrap, again, is if we were to just generalize. So they care about the aesthetics, very much about aesthetics, generalizing, right? And how something looks. But also they want to feel like they're doing something good. So that generalization is like, okay, I am going to put my effort, energy on buying Wrapped. And this segment is, okay, I feel really good about it, but I'm going to be creating it myself.
Right.
Right. So what's really important to these buyers is time and how something looks, status.
Status. Yeah.
Right.
The luxury brand. Yeah.
Right. And so they will spend the money to save time, to have it done for them, and to have the status.
We don't know if we've entered status yet. We don't really know. I think people do like the idea, some of these people, of showing up with something that's different.
Yes.
Right? So that you go to the shower, whatever party, and you have something that like someone commenting on an outfit, you know, like, oh, that's really cool. People do like that. I think almost top to bottom, people do like that. So I think it definitely hits that.
I think so too. But I think there's that happy space in between because you have to have thought ahead in order to do that. I mean, there's still friction in that you have to have ordered our set. You can't just run down to CVS and get it, right? But I think I agree with you. I think there's a certain amount of, and I went to a shower recently and I wrapped my present wrapped, and it was the only one wrapped.
Yeah.
And people noticed it and asked me about it. And it was just kind of interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. It'd be funny. It'd be fun if we were a status symbol, but we don't seem to be the one at the moment.
You never know. And it's also like the person who brings the dish and everyone's raving about it. How good it feels, which this is never me because I don't cook, but you go to the party and you bring the dish and everyone's raving about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? It's that kind of thing.
Yes.
Like, oh yeah, let me tell you about it. Right? I love that.
And it looks great. And that's the other key, is that people think it's going to take longer, but we still keep trying to hammer home. It's so fast.
Yeah. That's the other thing. That is why we have repeat customers.
Yeah. And so what's up for now? So we've got Valentine's coming. Tell us is there a special set for Valentine's?
In the past, we did put together a red set for Valentine's Day, but now we're saying just use what you've bought already. I mean, if you haven't bought like a holiday set and you don't have it in your house, you can buy our red set, you can buy our berry set, you can buy these colors here. I mean, this is all, you could buy all of these. You could buy them individually or you could buy them as a set and just use them for Valentine's Day and then save them for whatever holiday you celebrate. Lunar New Year is also coming up. That's, red tends to be the color. And there's so many. And then Mother's Day, you can use Father's Day, you can use all of our fabrics throughout the year. So we're going to do a sort of not a particular Valentine's or Galentine's Day push, but just this is an opportunity to reuse if you have it and buy new if you don't, but
And so going into 2025, so Cindy, you previously had a business. So my question is sort of around business as a small business owner, entrepreneur, as we head into a new year, what is the plan for RAPT? What are your goals? What are you thinking about? Are you trying something new? Like you mentioned, previous holiday, you invested in more Google ads. Is there something that's coming up in 2025 that you're looking to?
Well, yeah, we've been talking about, because we've noticed that our larger sets are gaining the most attention and selling the best, like year after year. I mean, we weren't really focused. We knew it, but we didn't dive into it the way we are planning to do this year. And to at the same time, simplify the offerings on the smaller sets because they are not moving as much. So when you have a site that has too many products on it, there's a complication and people get lost and they don't know what they're looking for. So we're going to kind of simplify the smaller ones, add a little bit to the larger ones. And then what we found, like I was telling Monica, I had an interview with the woman that started Minted. She's like, look, no matter what I do, we're a Q4 business, and we're a Q4 business. Like no matter how, I mean, hopefully obviously people use gift wrap all year, but it's very clear to us that when they start thinking about it, is Q4.
Yeah, mostly probably holiday cards, right?
Absolutely.
Business.
It's all holiday cards. So that, like they said, she's like, we sell a little bit, but it's 80 to 85% of our business is Q4.
That makes sense.
So just the recognition that that's the truth, and how do we maximize that with Google ads and with offerings and stuff like that.
We've landed on a very good set, and our product is kind of for a while we were sort of experimenting and shifting things around, and now we're like, we have a really good product. It's the right, the right amount of things, and it's the right price point, and obviously pricing shifts, but we're that was a lot of work to get there, but we finally feel like we got, we've both the ways of producing it, but also the way of packaging it.
We also are always kind of on the hunt for meeting somebody soon to get it's basically production dead stock. So it doesn't help us to go to an off-price store because they've bought dead stock and they're marking it up. We need to go to the actual production house that happens to have 10 yards of something left and purchase from there. So, because that's where the margin benefit is, and you need the margin benefit. So now we're meeting with some companies to see, like, okay, so how do we get some of that, and what works for our product and what doesn't. We're very specific about fabrics we will choose. They have to be the right weight. They have to be reversible. They have to have the
Not
right,
see-through, like
yeah, the
opaque.
opacity has to be there so you can't see the gift behind it. You have to be able to to tie it into a knot. And so
Right.
if you triple it on the edges, we create these edges that are mitered and also double stitched. It's wider, whereas a lot of gift wrap, it's just a rolled edge. And one of the reasons for this came out of my kids line, and that is when you wash it or use it, it holds.
Yeah.
It doesn't crinkle up as easily. Like a rolled edge will start to fall into itself, especially if this is going to hold a little bit better. And so you might want to iron it, but you don't necessarily have to because it's going to hold
Right.
itself. We've got a double stitch and a mitered edge, but that's a triple piece of fabric. So if your fabric triples and it's too thick to tie a knot, then it's not the right fabric. We
Right.
can't use it. And a lot of like upholstery fabrics fall into that
Yeah,
category.
that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway,
How do you find those places?
well, a lot of them came through the kids line because when I did the kids line, I was doing it so that it was washable, so that it was comfortable. And obviously kids don't want to wear stuff that's real heavy or anything,
Itchy.
and itchy. So some of those companies, one was this fabulous men's shirting company that I worked with, and some of our fabrics are men's shirting. And that works beautifully. Another is quilting fabrics. Sometimes you can find quilting fabrics. We occasionally work with Liberty of London, and we're able to get, sometimes they're like left, a few years old. They'll have a floral that works for us, and we're able to get a few yards of that. So anyway, we hunt around. I had been to a lot of the trade shows. Mo came to one of them with me, where you kind of walk around and you see who has. I'm very fussy about illustration, so I'm not going to just choose a fabric that has a rose on it if I think it looks yucky. It has to like be at a high enough level to really work for us.
Yeah.
And so I want to go back to how you were saying, one thing you said that I thought was really interesting in regards to business is accepting or acknowledging, I think is the word you use, acknowledging that you're a Q4 business, right? And how I'm going to equate that. So for my business is producing podcasts, right? Definitely not Q4. I'm not hitting the people. It's Christmas, the holidays. Nobody's wanting to start a new podcast.
Opposite, right?
People are busy.
Right.
Yeah.
And so do we spend our time trying to convince people that Q4 is still a good time to start a podcast, or Q1 or Q2 is still a good time to buy wrap? How much of our, whether that's time, money, energy, whatever, are we expending to sort of speak to that? And so I really liked how you said sort of acknowledging it. You didn't say like, we're throwing our hands up, but we're acknowledging it.
Yes.
Can you speak to that a little bit more? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's just the reality when you look at the research of the amount of money people spend.
The analytics.
And it was there all along. We just thought, I don't know, it's not that I guess we didn't really believe it at first, but then we saw it in our sales and we saw that the summer's very dead. So we said, well, let's spend the time now looking for fabrics, making sure our production stuff in line so that everything's ready to go. Because the first couple of years we were sort of scrambling and it was like, oh God, it's Christmas. We still haven't boxed anything up. And, Hanukkah's 5 days away. So we kind of have learned the pacing of the year and trying to do things.
And also saving money. You save money the rest of the year so that when you hit the Q4, you can throw a bunch more behind your ad. So we don't turn our ads off completely because the idea is that Google is acquiring this information, and whether it's scary or not, one of the ad profiles we're using is it's a smart campaign. So it's learning as it goes. So like this year, it's been on for a few years. This year, when we bumped it up, it was killing it.
Yeah.
It knew where to find the people. It knew based on who would purchased and who would gone to our site where to go, and it worked beautifully. So now we know that. So now we'll probably give that campaign even more money or a longer run up to the holidays than we did this year.
We've been always really lean, but we spent money where we didn't need to, but we didn't know that at the time. And we've learned that a lot. And for example, we were boosting on Instagram, and that was it's
a waste. That was a waste.
People see us on Instagram, but they're not buying from Instagram.
Yeah.
And so we'll continue to do Instagram. We're not going to spend thousands of hours doing that. We're just going to continue doing our work there. But
I found that Instagram is kind of like it's like a snapshot of the company. So I shop too much.
Sam's a very good shopper.
And if I bump into a line that piques my interest, whether it's in a fashion magazine, the first place I'm going to go is Instagram. Because if I go to their website, I'm going to see one or two shots immediately, and then I got to spend a lot of time to see more of it. If I go to Instagram, that's a snapshot. And if they can't show me a decent Instagram feed, then you know what? I don't really trust that their products is thought through. Like I'm not as interested in going forward. So I do think it's important to maintain that just as kind of if nothing else, a dictionary entry of our business.
And people do discover things on Instagram for sure.
They do, yeah.
But we just didn't feel it was useful for us money on the ads on Instagram.
It's not worth spending the money there, but we wouldn't drop it.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And another thing I heard you say there and a little bit earlier is a common tutorial or teaching for design. And that's, I believe the name is Don't Make Me Think. Don't quote me on that. And that is the simplicity, right? So when we overcomplicate as businesses, so I'll use myself, podcasting, produce. You have this package, that package, the other one, you can do 4 shows, you can do 8, it's too much. Like make it super simple. I have 2 options or 3 options at the most. They say 3 options. Like, so you said that earlier too. It's like really making it simple and easy decision, right? Yes. Don't make our customers, clients like you just said, go through a website and like, okay, where am I now? I'm, down a rabbit hole. And I thought it was really interesting that you mentioned that about Instagram. I hadn't looked at Instagram in the way that you articulated it, which I think is right on. That's a really good point for our listeners, for myself too, is that you can go, which I do it as well. I just didn't think of it that way. If I hear of a company, I'll go to Instagram and look at them. And you make a decision, whatever that decision is, at the time, your feelings, your whatever, and you make a decision. Am I going to go further and go to their website? Yeah. That's really, really interesting. And I think to add to that, in that time, and Monica, you said something very similar, is maybe in the other quarters besides Q4, which is really busy for you, you're preparing for your Q4, whatever that might be. So for me, like podcast producing, Q4 isn't particularly busy for new clients, still working with obviously the existing, but that's when I buckled down and said, okay, what are my simple offers going to be? Got my contracts together, get like all that in play for the other quarters. And you kind of marked something similar.
Yeah, no, it's been helpful, and it just kind of, and we have travel. There's things that happen during the year where we just can't do everything consistently all the time, but we try to get everything in place by September.
Well, I guess let's just say we've chosen to start a company in a time and place in our life where we don't want to be at a brick and mortar. Like we don't want something to be, we want to have some flexibility. We both have older kids that don't live in the city. And so we want to see them sometimes. So we're also honoring that.
Yeah.
And my last question for you is, 2 questions. Are you glad that you started this? And what is the most enjoyment you get from it? And I'll let both of you answer in your own way.
It's funny because I do all the fulfillment, and so it's in the holidays, it's just a lot of, Cindy and I box everything up, and then I will fulfill and shift things around when people order different things, and then go to the post office and mail it. But I said to my husband, because it's such a busy time of year, but I said, I really, really have enjoyed this business. I find it very fulfilling, like no pun intended with fulfillment, but like I found it very gratifying to do this. And mostly because it came up randomly, and we created something that neither of us had done before. And so creating a product and putting something together, and then people actually want to buy it. So it's just very gratifying to get the response, to me, get the response that it's something people are interested in that we've created. And I feel like we've done a really good job over the years of, our learning curve has been, it's been slow, but it's been good.
Well, I think when there's a business, there's always a learning curve.
Yes, and you kind of learn things all the time and sort of constantly problem solving. But I just find it very gratifying that people think it's an interesting and good and useful product. So that's how I'm very happy we started it. And it fits into my life right now. I think it fits into your life in terms of the amount of time needed.
I mean, I'm thrilled we started it. People, what you're describing, I definitely felt before with Seam. Like people loved the kids line and they still talk about it. And so that I experienced. What the thing I like about this is being relevant to my kids' generation.
Yeah.
I love that I was relevant to them in that I made stuff they wore, but now I'm relevant to them in the larger sense.
Yeah.
And that I really love. And they like it and they use it. And that's really cool for me. That's where I feel the happiest. And so yeah, I think it's been great. Yeah.
It's been fun. And we're still friends.
Yeah.
Right?
That could go different, I suppose. I mean, you hear these horror stories, but
You hear those stories. I really, really appreciate you both coming on and taking the time. And I enjoyed hearing the story and how it's evolved, and really enjoyed hearing sort of what you've learned along the way, because I think we all can benefit from your perspective in this realm, like thinking, from the point that you were making about here's a sustainable product, but it doesn't necessarily speak to a certain component of the sustainable communities. And, learning all of that and learning about acknowledging that, okay, Q4 is our big area, and preparing for that. So just to show, like, you hear those stories of one-hit wonders. That's not what I'm looking for. Overnight successes, right? And it's like, are there really overnight successes? I don't know. Hopefully there are, maybe there are, but it's over time that we learn and grow as we have our.
I think I heard a stat that overnight successes are on average businesses that have been around from 7 to 10 years. So anyway, I don't know. I think you might be onto something that it's not exactly that.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. That's it for this episode. Thank you again so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please share it with a friend and leave a 5-star review. It means way more than you know. Until next time, continue to wonder boldly.